Hi, welcome back to the BeanBag Interviews. Today I'm joined by Professor Kunkel. Would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, so my name is Professor Kunkel, specifically Ken Kunkel. I have served here or has worked at Arizona State University, specifically West Campus, for over 10 years if you take into account my graduate studies, my undergraduate studies, but I've been teaching about 7 years now for the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences. I have had the honor throughout that time also kind of through those 10 years to be a employee and a worker here at CommLabASU. And through that time, I've held the position all the way from mentor and now currently, right, I get to serve as the faculty director here. So,
Could you tell us a little bit about your journey as mentor to the director?
yeah, how much time do we have? So, if we were to look at my journey as a whole, I actually didn't originally start at West Campus in communications. I started as kind of like pre med, and my goal was kind of to be a pediatrician. I worked prior to kind of even coming to the campus as an EMT. The medical field was something that I loved, and my heart was there for quite a while just because I really enjoyed, well, one, just helping people. That's kind of always been a passion in my heart. But as I was going through school, I kind of quickly realized that it wasn't so much the medical field. I was a small business owner. I've been a lot of different things, but it was the teaching aspect. So I started taking more classes. I fell in love with the subject, and that kind of led me to the lab. My senior year, so actually, I did kind of lie. The only position that I've never held here in the lab is actually what we would call our returning mentors, right? Our 43 mentors. But I came here my senior year thanks to specifically Professor Gaffney. Was like, hey, you should think about joining this lab and you should get connected with Bonnie Wenzel. And so I went. I didn't want to at first. I'm, believe it or not, introverted. Being extroverted is a harder space for me. I've grown into it, but I decided to join and I fell in love with it from there. It provided all of that space of help, but then gave me that platform to teach. And I graduated, right? And then I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, I just want to be part of it. I want to be part of more of it and do more. So I ended up reaching out to Bonnie because I found out that you could be a graduate student coordinator. And I jumped into that, fell in love with that because now I was getting to teach at an even higher level, right? With mentors and with students and with classes, with the community. And I just couldn't stop. And from there, like I said, I became an assistant director. I got to work with many incredible individuals, Elise Paul, Aaron Romans, Kathy Cayetano. And from that, I became an associate director. And I used to tell Bonnie all the time, I just want to be as great as she was. She would always tell me I could be greater, and she would push me in so many ways. And now I find myself here as the faculty director, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. So, what do you enjoy most about teaching?
Oh man, that's a really easy question, actually. I said, oh man, but no, it's easy. The students. And I think that's what it's always been. I believe that we live in a world that is connected. And I think I see too many spaces where we look to pull that connection apart because it makes it easier for the self in some ways, right? If I don't have to care for others, if I don't have to think about others, if I don't have to, right, then I can go about my business. But teaching pushes me into a space where I get to, one, meet students where they're at, two, expand knowledge and education, right, and show students a space that is maybe unfamiliar and slightly scary. As a teacher, I get to be a translator. I get to be, right, a caretaker in many ways. And I get to say, I understand that. And I was scared at the time too, but let's figure out a way to do this together. Right. It's hard for me when I hear commentary around, oh, they just don't get it. They don't know how to work hard. They don't know how to, right. And I go, I don't think that's the case. I think we just don't know what we don't know. And I get to be that person that helps, right? Gets to literally plug into a space and say, you may not know yet, but we can get there. And then I get to meet incredible individuals from all around the world, not just right the United States, but all around the world who are passionate about some of the most incredible things, who then even outside of their academic space are dancers, programmers, video game designers, musicians, and it all comes together and builds this incredible culture of learning. And to be part of that, it's addicting. I think teaching to me, it gives me this high that nothing else can give me. And it's not even because it's for me. I quickly realized that the more I invest in others, it always comes back around in so many beautiful ways. It's just the students, they're just awesome.
Super cool. How do you think students can use communication skills to succeed in any career?
It is a must, right? I think if you look at the history of humanity, right, we see incredible leaps and bounds. We see incredible advancements in technology. I mean, my goodness, right now, right? Technology, AI, all these things that are really powerful tools. But in the end, right, whose hand is holding that tool? And it's us, right? And I always say, like, people go, AI can do these things, or technology can do this, or look at all these amazing things that we can do. But it's the people's ability to navigate that morally, ethically, to be able to do it in a way that creates shared understanding, that creates community, that creates connection. And all of the durable skills from communication plug into that, right? Look at any poll, look at any kind of research around communication, and you will see that it becomes one of the most important skills. If you look at businesses, oftentimes a lot of the money they lose is due to, right, employee burnout, employee dissatisfaction. All of those things are linked to our ability to communicate, right? So our ability to publicly speak, to work in teams and collaborate, leadership, intercultural communication are the remedy. It's always the remedy because every problem in the world is an interpersonal problem. And they're right. Because again, no matter what, whatever we're using, we still have to do it amongst each other. And if you think about our world today, it's more globalized than ever. It is more intercultural than ever. It is more expansive than ever. And that means we have to learn to work amongst and with, as opposed to above, right? We need to figure out how to do it together because dependency is great, being independent is great, but interdependence, that is where the greatest success, the greatest care, the greatest compassion comes from. And communication is right alongside of it.
Going back to the lab, what advice would you give to someone looking to join the lab?
Anytime you join anything, there's always going to be uncertainty. There's always going to be fear. There's going to be, can I do it? Should I do it? If I had to just give any advice to anybody, I think this even extends outside of the lab. You are stronger than you think you are. If you think you can't be a mentor, if you think you don't belong in the university, if you think you don't belong anywhere where you're at, give yourself a little more grace, give yourself a little more understanding, and give yourself a little more patience. When you go into these communities and you go into these spaces, one, you're going to find a lot of allies. Two, you're going to find a lot of resources. But in the end, it's up to you to take the chance with that. And it's okay. You're going to fail and you're going to mess up and it's going to be, right, not straightforward. It's going to be messy. It's going to be all those things. But about 100% of the time, you come out stronger. And that was how it was for me. Even when I came in the lab, I was scared. I didn't know how I can help students. I didn't know if I was going to be able to add any kind of value. And I just kept getting the opportunity to. And I realized that the more and more I took those opportunities, the more and more I said yes to the things that scared me, the more and more that I allowed myself to struggle, to, right, face challenges. I just kept getting better. I was finding a value in myself that was pushing me to be the best version of myself. And now I can't stop, right? That's like, hence why I'm faculty director. And I even want to do more, right? I want to take the space to be a center. I want to expand its reach far, far more than just West Campus. So you are stronger than you think you are.
It's a very inspirational answer.
Yes.
So for our last question, what would be a book that you would recommend for anyone to read?
Why do you got to hit me with my favorite question? Okay, I'm going to say this just overall, and I think this is the most important thing. This again comes from my mentor, like I said, Bonnie Wenzel. Leaders are readers. And I know that sometimes we go, I don't like books. I don't like to read. I disagree. I just think maybe most of the time we haven't found what you might like to read, but you got to read. And I'll put it this way, and then I'll give you more than one book, but because I can't not give you more than one book. When you read, you start to bring in all of the beautiful voices throughout history, right? Whether it is researchers, philosophers, fathers, mothers, experts, authors can be anybody, but your mind starts to find other voices. So I always like to explain it to students. Like when I face challenges now or I have problems and I need to think through these things, I always imagine myself sitting in a room, right? And before, when I used to sit in that room, it was just me thinking. And we know what happens when it's only our thoughts. It can become an echo chamber. Sometimes we don't have the answer, which is okay. But the more you read, that room starts to fill up, right? So I always think now, like when I run into a leadership problem here in the lab, I'm sitting in a space now that is followed up with, right, Aristotle, Plato, Nietzsche, Viktor Frankl, Bronnie Ware, Brene Brown, right? These authors who I have taken to love, to care for. I get to hear their ideas. I get to hear their opinions. I get to hear their voices. I get to hear their research. And that starts to influence my thought process, right? So I always say to everybody, when you read, you add to the collective voice that is already in you, and that just strengthens it, right? So if I had to suggest a couple books, one of my favorite books, it's a book I always tell all the mentors to read in this lab, The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. It's about finding yourself. It's about finding purpose and meaning. I think that is an incredibly important book. The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. If you want a book that taps into compassion, humanity, and really what's important in life, one, her voice is just absolutely incredible and it moves you. That is an incredible book. Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. It ties into emotions, right? How many emotions do we have? How can we view those? How are we supposed to view them? Um, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. The list can go on and on. I think maybe I just need to put a book list out and you can add it to this video, right? And attach it. But in the end, I just go read and find the thing that sparks curiosity. Curiosity is such a powerful teacher. Truly, at the heart of curiosity, it is getting someone to a space that they want to seek it out. And I think that's what literature and books can do, right? I read these things. Gosh, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, right? One of my favorite books. I hear a thought, a theory, an idea, and I just want to know more. And I think it takes things from a space of obligation, learning, like I'm obligated to learn, to appreciation. Read. Everybody needs to read. Read.
Heard it here. You need to read.
Yeah.
I don't make the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't make the rules either, but I'm just saying, right? It's just the most important thing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great having you on.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all the amazing work that you all do. And please continue to do so. And I'm always happy to stop by anytime.